Ha, who is a website designer by day here in Melbourne. And I thought she was in Brisbane? Melbourne, yeah. Well, for me, Melbourne seems local. Sorry. But in any case, she puts her evenings and a lot of other spare time into type design efforts. But that's not all. She works with a Vietnamese organization to collect vernacular signage and preserve some of the handmade culture of the Vietnamese language. So I'm really excited to see this.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you're ready for some Vietnamese diacritics. So today, I'll be representing my team, Lưu Chữ, a typography collective in Vietnam, to talk about our exploration in Vietnamese typography. It won't be similar like Stephen Banham talked about Australian typography in a history timeline, or it won't be similar to Milan, more on technical side of it, but it's more like exploration in a multi-aspect of Vietnamese typography, from draft to digital. So first, a bit about myself. You can call me T, or T like in the t-shirt right there, or T. So as David said, I work as a web designer and webflow developer during the day, creating website and using font. And at night, I learned to draw font and also collaborating with type foundry and type designer to create Vietnamese diacritics and help them extension Vietnamese for the typeface. And on the journey of exploring type design, I'm glad to be and proud to be a member of Lưu Chữ, who I will present later on. And Counterforms is, I think Stephen also mentioned in his talk before, a platform that champions young, discursive, emerging, anti-podium type design. And also Counterform offers affordable pricing for font. So you can check them out later. So going to the main topic of today. So what is Vietnamese language? I know that in John's talk that mentioned about Hồ Xuân Hương, a poet in Vietnam who bring the Chinese to the north. But we won't cover that, but we want to focus on the current Vietnamese language that we use right now is the officials based on the Latin characters. So let me tell you some funny story when I first came to Australia. So a friend in my uni, imagine this in very deep Australian accent. Hey T, do you want to eat pho for lunch? And I was like, pho? What's that? And she was like, what? You don't know pho? Are you even Vietnamese? And when I hear that, I kind of like have a thing in my head that, oh, maybe she mean that. And when she Google and send me with just the word PHO, and that image come up, and I was like, aha, that's pho. For any of you that don't know what pho is, it's a popular Vietnamese beef noodle soup with herbs on top. If you don't know what to eat later on, maybe that. So yeah, and pho with a horn on top, and add a diacritics, which is the hook above, to make a tone of the word. So that's the basic structure of a Vietnamese word. So I'd like to quote Lưu Chữ in his Vietnamese typography. I think a lot of you guys have been using his resource to designing Vietnamese characters. So he said, but also the current Vietnamese language contain 29 letters, with 22 coming from the basic Roman alphabet and 7 letter modified with diacritics. And then with that, we add the mark on top. With 5 of them is the tonal mark, which is sắc, huyền, hỏi, ngã, nặng. It's actually the Vietnamese name of them with the diacritics. So it's quite cool to like when you say it in Vietnamese and the mark just on top. And also these are the characters that you have to design when you do type design, with the circumflex, the reef, the horn, the bar, and then the currency symbol. Yeah, and this is a type specimen that have Vietnamese characters. Also more of the mark. I guess this is very favorite with everyone that designing for Vietnamese stackable diacritics. So anyone here love designing stackable diacritics? Yeah, nah? Okay, so because we always fascinated about our language and also the diacritics, so that's why we become a team. And I'll talk about Lưu Chữ, my typography collective. If you Google Lưu Chữ on Google, you will receive a suggestion called Lưu Chữ. So this word is actually a word mean archiving, and chữ mean word or characters. So we kind of played around with the word and to call our group name Lưu Chữ, which means archiving word or letter or type. So we are an independent Vietnamese typography collective that's based in Ho Chi Minh City, that we dedicated to the archive exploration of the history of Vietnamese graphic design through doing research and documentation of what a lot of things that we found around us. And our team have 6 members. Sadly, they can't be here with me because it's quite a physical distance, but they are all designers that share the same interest in typographic history. And each of us have a roles in what we're building our team. So firstly, we start Lưu Chữ as a community project where we encourage designer or people in Vietnam to take photo of our shop signage that recently that has been replaced by a lot of offset printing or digital font, and then upload that to Instagram and using our hashtag called Lưu Chữ or the Lost Type Vietnam. And through this, we learn a lot about the history, for example, like the origin or the day, the year that the artist that draw the side painting, and then their influence on these signage. But then after collecting and archiving those photos and signage, we kind of asking ourselves, how do we define Vietnamese typography? And that's why we go back to a very basic one idea, is exploring that in draft, where we learn about those stories and more information through the signage. So if you have a look here, you can see that firstly, the diacritics are in geometric shape. Like the circumflex can just be like triangle, and then the dot on the eye is just very giant. And also, if you notice that the Chinese character is still on the side, which is one of our language before. And then the next one, if you see here, that teal, the vertical teal is actually the horn of the U. And then here, for non-native speaker, you won't tell that that actually a dot below, which should be just under the letter E, instead of like staying side by side to the T. And it's not really a dot, it's more like a comma. And so with this one, if you look at the top corner, is vẽ, mean draw. And you can see that it actually have a tail on top, but it kind of like connected with the V. So maybe if you want to create like a literature for Vietnamese, that could be an option. And also on the side, at the vertical kind of characters, you can see the strip font still very popular, and also with the vertical tail. And then while collecting all the signage, we ran into a book, also that the type specimen that I showed before have a chart of the type case. And then we kind of wondering, what if we explore more in print? How that would look like. So we got to collect a lot of books on lettering, type design, typography. And in here, I would like to show you some take example of the U horn and how they play with the diacritics. So in here, you can see the horn is kind of like tired, falling horn. And then that one is like a comma, but just like from nowhere, like that there. And then this one, because the book is about the lettering technique and taking the idea of a stem. So everything of the letter need to fix inside the box, so that U horn kind of like minimize, and also it have to get more space of the tail, so it kind of like fit in there. Ooh. And then this one is a reverse contrast one, and the horn look like a mic or a headphone set, like on the horn. And then this one, again, is like a falling horn, but if you look at the arrow with the horn, it kind of like extended their legs just to like stick in there, like, oh, I need you to save me or something. Yeah, and then on this poster advertising, it say at the bottom here, mean full set of Vietnamese diacritics. But if you can see clearly, it is using a very default font, but then the diacritics is just look like out of nowhere, like borrowed from some different from different font. And then from this one, we kind of asking ourselves, how about in digital? So this is an advertising note that I found in Melbourne, Australia, like in Vietnamese area. They say they need someone to help, and you can contact them inside. So very DIY diacritics. They use a default font and then just add the mark by themselves. But imagine you have this on the web, and I don't know how can you add the diacritics yourself. And then this one is Cooper Black, but the font from somewhere else. I mean the mark. And then also this one, it's just a comma, and then they can just stick it on top to create the name. Easy. And then again, this one is actually the current scene in Vietnam right now. Cooper Black is my favorite, but Cooper Black is also everyone's favorite. You can see it's condensed, it's bold, can be a neon, can be shadow, sometimes weirdly like that. And also a lot on our packaging. So why people love Cooper Black so much in Vietnam? When our research, we found out, we learned about the Vietnamese software company, which is founded in 1987 by Ho Tan Vic in California, USA. So Vini software company create a lot of software for Vietnamese encoding and input method. And we are lucky to got shared this resource on the Vini font pack and also the font manager's kind of resource on how to use Vini font. So like before, when you got a Vini CD to install the font, there will be two versions of the font within different encoding. The first one, they're using similar like original name of the font that you may know. And then the second one is the name that based on the city of Vietnam. So we still want to learn more about Vini software and also Vini company, and hopefully later on we will get the chance to get more of resource on this. But yeah, also another way, another thing is when you type Vietnamese on computer, you have to use the input method. So one of them technique is telex and the other one is Vini. So when you type the letters, Vietnamese letter, you have to type the letter first, and then either you type the numbers or another letter to add the mark on the letters. And also there's a lot of input keyboard driver that we used back then. So the mark positioning in this scenario is kind of adaptable, but we're wondering, is there a universally recognized standard for such positioning mark? In this resource, we found some examples. For example, of the circumflex and the combining mark. For example, in the first column is draft or letterpress. You can see that the circumflex, the hook above on the circumflex is actually on the left-hand side, because when people do letter printing to avoid the ink, so if you put it on the right side, there will be like a lot of ink there. So that's why it's on the left side. And also on the last column, is actually the way that we write our mark in handwriting. So that kind of like a lot of options for we positioning our mark. So go back to what our collective is doing. We wonder like currently where do we stand in this journey of exploring the transformation of Vietnamese typography. We think about going back to very basic by looking for resource or documentation through our books. So we have to hunt a lot of books from the second-hand bookstore because it's kind of hard to find any resource in our library in Vietnam, but also in other places. So second-hand bookstore. And then after that, we come back to our studio and take photo and documenting them. So these are some of examples of the music sheet, CD, book cover. And we documenting them and then listing them in a database, categorizing them, and noting all the information from the books, and also taking photo of them. And we would love to build like a library, which similar to Letterform Archive is doing. I can show you the current staging site. We currently have a website, but this will be the second one that we launch later on this year. So this one is our library online right now, with different categories and different listing of the image. And then on top of here is the filtering, depend on what the topic that you want to look for, or you can also search for the keyword. And then all the information will be on right hand side if you want to look more information or any photo here as well. And also on our website, we currently already have articles, but it's only in Vietnamese. So that's why in our next step, we're thinking of adding a translation so that international audience can read about it as well. Yeah, and also on that journey, after all what we learned, we also want to create font, like everyone else here want to. Yeah, that is the demo of our upcoming website. And also a physical space so that if you want to read more about or explore more on our archive or library, you can come and visit us. And also a space for to everyone to have a conversation with us around Vietnamese typography or anything that you could help us find out. And these are all the books and printed that we have found so far. And yeah, just to end this, I would love to quote this sentence that a lot of people in Vietnamese, in Vietnam that know mean học nữa, học mãi, which means learn more and learn forever. So our journey is still going, and we hope to share that with you all. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to us.
That was great. So we do have time for a few questions. Everybody's already completely absorbed all the diacritic placement? Okay.
T, that was amazing. I wanted to know really quickly, obviously you're going to be archiving these things for a long time. Do you plan on ever making them digital so that way people in Vietnam could actually use them in their own graphic design?
As in like a digital version of the font, or?
Yeah, so there's a lot of beautiful examples of font that you guys have found in all of those books that you're archiving at the moment.
Yeah, so this book will be available online, and it's a way that similar to Letterform Archive is doing, that you can find the book cover that you want, and then in contact with us, we can send you the PDF or like.
But you're not going to make them into like a font and into an open source font or anything of that nature, so people could use them?
Oh yes,
okay.
we would love to do that.
That would be amazing.
Because our resource, but also we're still learning in doing type design.
Right.
So yeah.
With so many different variables on your different marks, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I was wondering, how do you kern Vietnamese?
Oh, actually, there's a lot of people already touched on that. So yeah, I think currently we don't really have or maybe we haven't known about the documentation of kerning examples that like official for us. So we'd love to build one in one day. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, T. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
So I wonder, are there any compromised way to write the Vietnamese with just basic Latin? I mean, not you draw the shapes by yourself, just use basic Latin to type maybe, or in the computer.
As in, sorry, can you repeat that?
I mean, are there any transcription for Vietnamese use just the basic Latin or the 26 letters, basic letters, and maybe numerals, figures to transcript the Vietnamese?
As in the way we type? How do we type it, or?
Yes, type.
Yeah, so the way we type it, we will type the letter first, and then we type the numerals to add the mark. That's how I do it on my laptop. But on my phone, I will type the letters and then the second letter. So for example, if I want to do a circumflex, I would type A and then A again to create a mark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. Always looking forward to see the Vietnamese here. Like, I mean, in my working, I always some clients just want me to make my typeface support the Vietnamese. So I'm wondering, do you have, is there any typeface that can very good support the Vietnamese languages? I mean, probably the most, what do you think about the current support of the Vietnamese language for the current typeface? Or do you have a favorite typeface for Vietnamese language?
Ooh, that's really hard to answer. Currently, if you can see on the screen, we got to use ABC Oracle from Dynamo with support Vietnamese. But I can speak on my personal perspective. Is WorkSense like really popular now?
Yeah, so can I regard WorkSense as a good reference for me to know how to set the diacritics for Vietnamese language? I mean, there are lots of the various versions, according to the table you just shown.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hi T, that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Obviously you've worked with a lot of people to extend their typefaces into Vietnamese. Is there anything from your experience that would make building a font more suitable for Vietnamese? That is to say, like, that you can do at the start in terms of, the spacing, the metrics, anything that might make it more easier for you later?
Yeah, that's also the thing that we've been wondering as well and got asked a lot. Like for creating Vietnamese, do you have to create different metric for us? But I guess it's also very depend. We don't really care when we use it. For us, if we add a designer who uses a font, we just enrich the leading a little bit, which is our practice. So just designing for specific for Vietnamese, which is, I think, not really inclusive, because we have to design for other language as well. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay. We can go to the break. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you, T. That was wonderful.
I do have. I just want to say we have podcasts that I brought from Vietnam, so if you want, you can come and see me. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Okay. We're going to take another half-hour break, and then we will have the final session for today. I want to encourage everyone to this is a good opportunity to take a bio break, because we're going to want everybody to stay in the room once you come back at 6 o'clock. Thank you.